professional knowledge makers, rather than simply as professional knowledge users. This was also what I was saying this morning in the workshop. I also talked about sharing knowledge, but about empowering you as knowledge makers too, not only as knowledge users. And the same goes for teachers. What I've just said was first said by Waters Adams in 2003. And all the common traits between differing definitions of action research are that action research takes place from the inside and not, as I said before, by an outside researcher coming up to do his or her research in the classroom. It is meant to be improved from within, that is, the researcher is not an outsider. And also, it can help you improve your beliefs, your values and perspectives of the situation, of your values and also of the values of the people involved in that situation, the individuals that take place in the interaction. So why does action research qualify as research? Because it can be used to deliberately understand practice, not only to find a technical solution. And that's what Walter Adams said in 2003. I have a little I think I'm going to skip a little bit, because being a teacher I noticed the bored glances. So I'm going to just skip and go on to, you all know what action research is, don't you? You've now established what it is. So let's go to the practical part. But before that, I have to tell you that when you do action research, you do it in different ways. Okay, you do it in the classroom. You can have your questionnaires, like the ones I gave you this morning. That is meant for action research. And you can also have discussion groups, which some of you have done with me probably if you have been in my class. Sylvia has done one. Okay. Which is that you get the students to talk about how their learning process was and what they felt about it and all that. And there's a cycle when you do action research in a class or in a hospital or in an NGO. You can also apply it to NGOs. Why not? And I think most of you come from NGOs, so I'm going to do just that. You want to improve some practice in an NGO. So you plan it. There's a spiral. You have an initial plan, which is who can give me something that you could improve in an NGO. Something that doesn't work, something that could be improved. No? Or at university. Something that could be improved in the organization, or something that doesn't work. For example, the IT people do not have free software. Right? What would be the problem there? What's the objective? Either that, or to talk about them about it, you know, a little. Okay, so let's continue with that example. You have your initial plan, have your example. You can have another example in your head, I don't mind. I'll just apply the theory to it, okay? You have an initial plan, then you act, you do something about it. For example, what could you do?
For the IT, maybe you will go and then talk to the IT administrator or something.
Okay.
And then if you couldn't get a solution, maybe with the department head or something. I don't know.
Okay, well, let's go by phases. You go there, your initial plan is to go there and say, okay, let's get the free software going.
The software, yeah.
Okay. So you act, right? And then you monitor. Because perhaps the IT person has said, yes, I'm going to do it. And so you monitor and see, you know, whether it is or whether it isn't. You go to every classroom and you see if there's free software in every classroom, whatever. Okay, this is a very silly example, I know, but I was trying to get you back. And then you evaluate. And what do you do then? Perhaps he has installed OpenOffice, but not. What's the equivalent of free software for translation memories? But not that. So, what do you do? For example, or his supervisor, or you have your next plan and you improve.
Or you would like to install by yourself.
Or you learn. Yes, why not? That's another plan you can have. What I want you to see is that it never ends. It's a spiral, and you're always, forever, improving. And then you have little spirals coming out here. Imagine that you decide that you can't do just one thing about the IT thing. You have to have several plans so that everything works and everything's wonderful. So on the one hand, you have, a PhD student learning about free software and other things, just in case, backup for the future. On the other hand, you have other IT people, the new people, learning about that so that you know that in the coming years you will have somebody who can actually change the software. You have several plans at the same time, perhaps for the same objective or for different ones. This is a classroom, imagine. Each and every individual of the classroom has to improve in a different way, or could improve in a different way. There's different potentials, different things you're good at or bad at, or not so good at. So you see more or less how the spiral goes and how it can have other spirals around. Oh. Well, it's not supposed to be sideways, but I suppose you can see it. So, those of you who were with me this morning remember Susan George, don't you? So I don't have to actually introduce Susan George. If you don't know who Susan George is, you can go and Google her. And we did a video on Susan George. She was making a speech at the Central Fora, and everybody tried to interpret what she was saying as a means of training. We used this morning, so you know it. But the people in Malmo, there were 11 students who did this because their source language was English, and others did other videos as first video. And so they filled in the same questionnaire that you have filled in this morning, and then gave it to me. And these are simplified results because there are other ways of showing the results. There are other ways of making charts to show them. You remember that this morning you had to say whether you found the video useful for you, for the purpose. And back there in Malmö, they were going to interpret in 10 days' time. They were going to be put into a booth for the first time in their lives and interpret. So they usually found it really useful. I mean, that's the dark blue color. Okay. They found it useful because they were going to do it. I don't know about this morning. Perhaps if you're never going to interpret the social forum, you won't find it useful. You never. Interesting. Now that's a different question, whether it's interesting or not. If you volunteer for the social forum, it normally means that you like what people say there, so it motivates you, it interests you. And those were the results that we got. Whether it was difficult or not, I also asked, as I asked you this morning. Whether the content was difficult, the presentation and the expression. And those of you who were there this morning know what I mean by that. When I say the expression, I mean how the person talks, whether they're coherent, and all those things. Okay, does anybody have any questions at this point? Everybody understands what I'm saying. So these are my first results from Malmö. I have other charts, but I'm not going to bore you with them. This is just to show you what we do. So what I'm going to do in the future, I'm doing my PhD on this.